Hi everyone, this is Cherie from Paper Pieces and Leftovers. Now, I started off with American Crafts grass colored paper and Catherine Pooler ink in the color Grass Skirt. Now this file is from MarjorieAnnDesigns.com and it is Franklin Loves Fall, and this is bear number 3. So I've already cut it all out and I'm just going to show you how I ink it and how I glue it together. This is a reference, not anything that needs to be strictly adhered to, just to kind of help you guys in case you hit a bump in the road not knowing where a piece goes, or you're kind of stuck in limbo on the color of paper that you want to use, you're not sure. So this is just my way. Now, this is going to be the flower Franklin's holding, the top. The base piece that's on the glass mat, you do not need to ink, just the petals. You could ink whenever you like. If you want to do that base piece, that's fine. I choose not to because it's hidden behind the petals. At the end of the video, you will see the gluing process. Now this video is sped up 2 times just to kind of make it go by a little bit faster, and it also allows me to watch TV while I'm inking and talk to my children and my husband and take my dog outside, etc., etc. The paper color I used is an older piece of paper. It is called Lemonade from Joann's by Coordinations. I don't know if it's still carried, so please do not be upset with me if they no longer have it. There are plenty of substitutes, and the color is Sauna by Catherine Pooler ink. Now, all of my Franklin bears are cut out in the color Caramel by American Crafts, all from 12 by 12 cardstock shop. I do buy my caramel color in packs of 25, usually several at a time. My ink color is Sandcastle by Catherine Pooler. And back to that yellow, if they don't have Lemonade, my other color that I was going to use for the flower is Mustard by American Crafts. Now this video will be done in fragments, as you can tell. I recorded each one of the colors that I inked in sections, and then I stopped the video, paused it, resumed when I got the next set out, just so I remembered to kind of show you guys the colors I use instead of just carry on and do my thing, to help you guys along the way for anybody that needs help. I have a swatch book from 12 by 12 cardstock shop as well, which is my go-to, and that's how I'm able to refer to the colors for you guys a little bit easier. They will also be in the comments of the paper pieces once they're completed and posted on my Facebook. The reason I record even the voiceovers in segments is in case I need to rephrase something, I can just hit the back button and I'm not deleting all. For instance, this video is 17 minutes long. I wouldn't lose all 17 minutes. That way it just kind of continues. Now I use the bigger daubers on my bigger pieces, not the accessories, but Franklin bears in general, my children, just because it covers more area instead of the finger dauber. I use pom-poms with crocodile clips and finger daubers for my accessories and smaller pieces. And I use the bigger Tim Holtz daubers, which you could find anywhere, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, etc., for my main focal point pieces. I go around a couple times until I get it to the desired consistency that I like. And that's just a habit of mine because it does dry lighter. So now we're going to move on to the inner ear pads, and the colors that I used here are Sugar and Spice by Coordinations. At the end, I do show some alternatives. This was just the color I grabbed on accident. Usually, I use blush or peony, and I use the color Do-Si Do by Catherine Pooler to go around the edges for all 3 of those pink shades. You can't really tell the difference with the pinks once they're inked on the outside, but blush and peony, those 2 are the 2 that I usually use, but I grabbed Sugar and Spice. It was just by mistake because it's an older paper. Once again, I don't know if it's still carried because it was from Joann's by Coordinations. Now I used the color Sand from American Crafts, And Memento, I use the color Peanut Brittle for the muzzle on every Franklin. Now this is Mud Puddle by the Swiss Dots and Over Coffee from Catherine Pooler. The Swiss Dots paper did come from 12 by 12 cardstock shop, and my inks came from catherinepooler.com, except for the muzzle color that came from 12 by 12 cardstock shop. All right, now to get into the paper piecing portion of it. So that chalk is from the Stamping Up palette of chalks. I have probably 10 or 15 of them. They're all retired. You can use any chalk that you're comfortable with, and I just put it into a single container that I had for many, many years, so I didn't have to pull out the whole chalk set. Here is the template I use for the eyes to trace. I one day decided to make it just so my eyes were in the same place on every single bear. That's why they look identical, even if I use the stamp that I made. And the Pan Pastel, that is black. That's one of the ones I use to go around the eyes. I do use Neutral Gray Extra Dark for my kids though, just so it's not so dark around the eyes. And that's a false eyelash glue tool that are somewhere in one of my previous posts. If you look in the comments, I did link all those because there's no way to really leave them on my Facebook without them getting buried anyhow. If you need it, let me know. I can pull it up and put it in the comments for you guys. And once I got the chalking done around the eyes, now I've already pre-glued my eyes together, so I'm just digging those out. These are not the eyes that come with the Franklin file. These are ones that I created, but there are eyes in similar shapes to this, and I can give you guys that file to go purchase if need be. You can work with any eye shape you'd like. In my opinion, eyes can make or break a file, and you'll play around with them and figure out which ones work for you guys. I have made quite a few sets of my own eyes, and for some reason they don't allow me to share them because I created them in Cricut Design Space. So after I get my eyes placed on, the little white dots are actually the whites of the eyes. I cut them out just so they're even for the most part for me, because the white gel pen and hand tremors don't work. Now this is a lip brush that I got from Amazon, and I use that to apply the white chalk to my eyes, which once again, Pan Pastel Titanium White. And that's what I chalk the eyes with for each of my bears, my children, my kids, whatever, adults, any of the pieces I'm working on for white highlights. The Stamping Up White isn't dark enough for me, and once I came across this from watching my friend Connie do her pieces, I fell in love with this chalk. That's my Timbo micro eraser, just so I can touch up where the white went a little too far. Now for my white dots for the eyes, I put a little glue on my hand. That way I can control the amount of glue going onto those pieces. That way I don't have glue coming out from underneath them and making a mess. Now in Cricut Design Space, the width of this specific bear is 10.0 and the height is 8.226, which made him about 4¼ inches tall. And holding the flower with the top of the flower to the bottom of his feet, he's about 4½ inches tall, which is my preferred height. I try to make the faces 2 inches wide from cheek to cheek. Now the reason I did not automatically have the legs trimmed the way that I trim them is so you guys could see the process that I do. Once again, this is just something I do. It's my preference. You don't have to do it. So I trace where the base of the feet go on the bottom. That way I can just line them up once I glue them. I put the body down and I shift it up just a little bit, and I trace under the body so I know where to cut off the legs, because I don't want the overlapping underneath his tummy. Just because the weight of my books, or if the pieces I'm selling, they go in the mail, and just weight period will sometimes cause indentations. Once again, it's just something I do, not anything you have to do. And that was a lot of glue that I put on that leg. Guess I wanted to make sure it stayed down. I don't think I'll ever use less glue. I try, but it's just not in my nature. So that's a fine line applicator that I got from Amazon that my glue is in. I do use either Barely Art glue or Art Glitter glue. And so I started with the legs. After I got my legs put where I want them, traced, trimmed, and glued down, I then did the body. And I'm just putting some pressure on there to get, you know, the glue distributed as evenly as possible. And then I'm doing his feet. And the leg that is on the bottom, because they overlap a little bit at the very, very base of the feet, I put the one that was behind on first. That way they were stacked the same way with the overlapping. And it's little things like this you don't have to worry about. This is just, I've done it for so long. I just do it the same way every time. So after I got his feet on, now I'm going to do his ears. And the bigger ear goes on the left. The smaller one goes on the right on 95% of them. So you can look at the ears and see the difference, and you'll know which one's left, which one's right. The flattest part of the ear goes towards the outside. After my ears are on, then I go ahead and put on my ear pads. I have a cough drop in my mouth, sorry. Allergies have been pretty bad because the wind picked up here in California today. So fun. Now the number 3 on the back of the head in pencil is so that way I know that goes on bear number 3's base, because sometimes I do the eyes all at the same time, and that way I know what bucket, because I put them in little containers, little buckets, what bucket that specific head goes back into. That way I don't mix them, because they're not always the identical same size. You can try to get them as close to 2 inches wide. Well, I always try to get them to 2 inches wide, but they're sometimes off just a little bit where you can't take bear number 1's head and put it on bear number 3's, because you're sizing them individually. So after the head is on, then the arms go behind the body, or however you'd like. You may want to turn one of the arms out to make it look like he's holding it, but I just went the way that the pattern showed in the finished picture. After that, I put the muzzle on and then the nose. And I stick my tweezers under the muzzle before I push the nose down. Just once again, there's sometimes with the glue, it'll make an indentation where the nose is, so I just use the tweezers to push it down. And piecing in front of me in order to record, I can't always line up the top of the pattern, so I'm trimming off of the little bit of the base that was showing, and I'm going to trim it up more once the video's over. I just basically wanted to show you guys that there is a way to fix it if it's a little bit off, and it's just a very small pair of even sewing scissors work the best. So here's the flower base that I did not ink, and the petals are going to just sit right on top of it. Now I'm going to glue each petal individually down, and it doesn't matter which order you go in. I'm just going to do the outside, the far left, the far right, and then the 2 middle. That way, it was mostly in case I needed to trim anything off if any of the pointy tips overlapped before I put on the center of the flower. So here I'm trying to make sure that I have them and none of the base is sticking out. That is a vinyl squeegee, which I use as my bone folder just to flatten my pieces and make sure that the glue is as smooth as can be. I love Franklin. There are so many files that I want to do, but I do them in the evenings. My life has been busy between doctor's appointments for myself and my daughter. My foster daughter, I had her for years, and they removed her when her aunt was giving us issues with getting her birth certificate and social security card. And then her father ended up out of prison and taking her. She did not want to be there. She wanted us to go drive and pick her up, but explaining to her that we couldn't do it that way. We had to wait until she turned 18 to basically age out of the system. She called on her 18th birthday and said she was ready to come home. Now she's home. And I take her to work and I bring her home. And then my daughter, she has appointments as well. As you guys know, she has permanent short-term memory loss from being hit by a car in front of her school. So I try to dedicate some evening time to do piecing, but I still have to cook and clean and all the other fun stuff that housewives do. So my son did have surgery. His arm is fixed. He's on the mend. He wants to get right back in there and go back to normal, but he had to understand that with the cast, he's going to have some arm weakness and it's going to take some time to heal. So I'm just throwing glue on the back of the flower. That way I can glue it down. And I had to make sure that the stem was actually on his stomach. That way his hand would actually be in the right position holding it. And this hand, I realized that I do them opposite than the file suggests. I like the smaller part where it's like his thumb. And this is just me. I use a piece of acetate also to draw on the line on the muzzle because with my tremors, my lines are the furthest thing from straight. So I just flipped the hand over and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to stop what I was doing, cut out another one. And so while I was thinking about it, I remembered that for bear number 4, that bear has both hands. So I stole the hand out of that set that's already inked. And I'm gonna swap them out and you'll see what I mean. Excuse me. So I'm just using my lip brush to add my white details. And here's where I had the epiphany, realizing that I already had a hand that was already inked because I didn't want to stop and dig bags out that had all of the hands in them that I've already pre-cut. So I borrowed the hand from bear number 4 and I put it back after I was done recording. And just the smaller part is at the top because I use that as his thumb, and just more little highlights and my gel pen. Super simple, but thank you all for following and welcome new followers. Any questions, let me know. Have a good day and I will see you guys later.